Chosen one, lean in with your spirit wide awake, because this is not random sound crossing your ears. This is a summons, a signal, a divine interruption cutting through the noise of your ordinary routines to remind you that your life has never been ordinary, that before your first breath ever filled your lungs, before your mother ever felt you stir within her, before history wrote your name into time, you were already known, already marked, already set apart by a design too intentional to be explained away by coincidence. And this is not about ego, not about human status, not about being elevated in the eyes of a culture that measures worth by applause. This is about divine authorship, about a calling scripted in eternity that placed a spiritual signature on your soul so distinct that the unseen realm recognized you long before you recognized yourself. And what you have called strange about your life has always been sacred. What you have labeled misfit has always been marked. What you thought was isolation has always been initiation. Because there are souls born to blend into systems, and there are souls sent to shift them. And you, whether you have fully accepted it or not, carry the weight, the fire, and the frequency of the latter. And the truth pressing on you even now is not poetic metaphor but living prophecy over your existence. Because the ones called to walk in this level of assignment are rarely the loudest, rarely the most decorated, rarely the most visible at first glance. They are simply different at the level of essence. Their spirits carry a heat not lit by this world. Their eyes hold a depth that feels older than their years. Their presence alone alters atmospheres without performance or announcement. Rooms subtly rearrange when they enter. Conversations shift tone. Hidden things surface. Not because of personal charisma, but because heaven has woven authority into their being. And if you have ever wondered why your road has felt steeper than most, why loneliness has walked beside you like an unwanted companion, why you have never quite slotted neatly into the expectations placed around you, understand this clearly now. It was never punishment. It was confirmation, because the rarer the calling, the more intense the refining, and divine fire is not entrusted to vessels that cannot withstand pressure. So the very weight you resented was evidence of capacity. And as your awareness awakens to this, both heaven and hell take notice, because realization activates responsibility, and everything changes when a chosen soul remembers. So right here, right now, as you step toward the truth of who you are, let your heart declare its readiness. Let your spirit internally say yes to the assignment written into your being, and stay with this word all the way through, because what closes this message will seal something deep within you. And hear this next part carefully, because what you have labeled weakness may be the clearest proof of your divine commission. This message will not resonate with everyone. But if you have felt out of place your entire life, painfully different, unable to fully relate to the surface rhythms of this world, what you are hearing now may finally translate your story. The first sign has never been worldly success as validation. It has been spiritual contradiction. You are a walking paradox, holding ancient discernment in one breath and childlike openness in the next. Gentle enough to sit with pain that does not belong to you, yet carrying a quiet intensity that unsettles darkness. Without a word, you have walked through internal fires that should have hardened you, yet your eyes still carry light. You read people with uncanny accuracy, yet are frequently misunderstood yourself. You pour strength into others and often end up wounded by the very ones you strengthened. You see sweeping pictures of destiny, yet wrestle with simple earthly structures. And this is not dysfunction. This is different wiring. You were not built for ordinary processing. You were designed to sense spiritual climates, to absorb and filter energies most people cannot even perceive without collapsing under them. Your sensitivity is not fragility. It is divine filtration, advanced spiritual design, and it carries a cost. The second sign is that your life has felt watched, opposed, or strangely targeted from an early age. Not merely disliked, but misread, misjudged, misunderstood even within your own family lines. You have felt like a prototype in a world of replicas, experiencing trials too heavy for your age. And that was not random hardship, that was spiritual resistance. because darkness often detects light before light understands itself, and your presence in this realm has always threatened structures built on deception. Yet despite what you have walked through, you are still here with your capacity to love intact, your hope not extinguished, your heart not fully closed, and that is not mere survival. That is spiritual authority forged in pressure. The third sign is the persistent inner knowing that you are here for something more, even when you could not define it. A quiet conviction that your life carries purpose beyond routine, not arrogance but assignment, memory, as if instructions were encrypted within you, awaiting the right season of activation, and circumstances have shaped you like training grounds. Obscure seasons that felt like delay were preparation. Hidden years were rehearsal. Every struggle was strengthening spiritual muscles for battles you did not yet see. The fourth sign is that your path has never felt optional, and your growth has never been negotiable. Others seem able to stall, but you get shaken awake. You cannot ignore inner nudges without consequences, because your frequency influences more than just you. When you rise, others around you shift. When you forget who you are, environments stagnate. You function as a bridge between dimensions of influence, which is why comfort never holds you long, because the kingdom attached to your calling refuses to let you waste it. And if you have felt too much for this world, or like this world never made proper room for you, it is because you were never built for agreement with broken patterns. You were forged for holy disruption, and when you accept that, the balance of spiritual resistance begins to tilt. Now we go deeper, because the signs of your calling are not only in your pain but in your spirit encounters. The fifth sign is a spiritual authority that even the unseen realm acknowledges. Moments in your life that cannot be dismissed as imagination, dreams that carried weight, impressions that proved true, sudden warnings, profound senses of knowing, encounters that felt bigger than coincidence, meeting certain people with a strange familiarity, as if your souls recognized each other beyond time, because in spiritual dimensions, you are known. Observed not with fear but with awareness of rank, protected not for comfort but for purpose, never meant to be sheltered from all battle but positioned to remember who you are, and when you walk in that remembrance, your presence itself carries command. Atmospheres shift without theatrics. The sixth sign is the deep sense of never fully belonging, even in spaces that should have felt like home, always slightly on the edge, too awake for shallow engagement, too honest for performative environments, too intense for surface-level fellowship. But your soul did not come to fit. It came to activate truth, to recalibrate environments, to sense distortions others ignore. And when you feel that internal check that something is not aligned, that is not rebellion, it is divine clarity. You cannot remain where truth is diluted without feeling spiritual friction. And that loneliness you have felt is not failure, but evidence of carrying a depth others are still growing into. Leva, Inbo. The seventh sign is the most mysterious. Moments where the veil between seen and unseen felt thin, in stillness, suffering, worship, or awe. Where time felt different and something beyond you moved through you. Where you were not just sensing the divine but transmitting it. And this is why your words can carry unusual weight, why your silence can convict, why people either lean in deeply or pull away. Because your energy forces clarity. You were not sent to change the world through force but through alignment. And when you align, life begins to flow differently. Resistance breaks in unexpected ways. Doors open not through striving but through resonance with source. And what if the parts of you tried to fix were never broken? What if your intensity, your depth, your sensitivity, your vision were exactly as intended? While the world trained you to shrink toward normal, heaven authored you for alignment, not acceptance. You were sent to carry love, light, and truth into systems that forgot their origin. And you did not find this message by accident. It intersected you as part of activation. And the real question is not whether you are chosen, but whether you are ready to live like it. Because recognition is beginning. Embodiment is transformation. And embodiment requires spiritual discipline, not as rigid rule, but as divine technology. Prayer as connection line, fasting as clearing channel, solitude as recalibration, reflection as sacred remembering. These are infrastructure for your assignment, because chosen vessels do not only receive vision, they build according to blueprint. And when you ignore alignment, your soul signals through fatigue, anxiety, disconnection, because you cannot thrive in environments that contradict your design. And once awakened, you are not invisible to spiritual dynamics. Both support and resistance intensify, which is why guarding your inputs, your time, your focus becomes sacred responsibility. And there comes a moment when remembering must become becoming, when preparation gives way to participation, when you stop apologizing for your design and start walking in it even without full details, because assignments of this nature rarely come with full maps, only with the assurance of the one who sends. And your role may look unlike any model you have seen, but you will not walk empty. You will carry a fire that purifies before it warms, and at some point you realize you are not only seeking signs, you are becoming one. Awakening often dismantles before it builds, identities fall, relationships shift, old versions dissolve, and it can hurt. But beneath that loss is freedom from performance. And as you stabilize in who you truly are, striving eases, presence deepens, validation loses its grip, you become anchored. Storms may hit, but they refine more than they remove you. Your power grows quieter but stronger, authority that does not shout but resonates, maturity that holds steady frequency, so misalignment adjusts around you. And this journey has no final graduation point. It moves in seasons and spirals, keeping you both learner and guide. And the threshold before you asks whether you are willing to release who you were to fully inhabit who you are, because half awakening cannot sustain this calling. And living this out looks like moving with intention, speaking truth even when your voice trembles, loving without chains, creating from authenticity, protecting your peace as sacred ground, no longer begging to be understood, but walking in alignment. So even your silence carries message, attracting those ready, stirring those resistant, yet fulfilling purpose regardless, because your life itself becomes transmission. And now understand clearly, you were not sent merely to survive, but to shift. Your past seasons of fire were refinement, not rejection, preparation, not punishment, every contradiction shaping capacity. And now living this means guarding your inner world, returning to spiritual connection as necessity, choosing environments that honor your calling, being present rather than perfect, aligned rather than loud, becoming evidence of divine movement in your generation. And as this seals, enter this final sacred moment, a prayer not as ritual but as alignment. Father in heaven, we stand in awe and surrender, thanking you for calling forth souls marked for such a time, reminding us we are not forgotten or broken but chosen and set apart by your design. Forgive the seasons we doubted, the times we shrank. Today we return to who you created us to be. Awaken holy fire within. Burn away lies, fear, and comparison. Bring clarity where there was confusion, peace where there was unrest, strength where there was weariness. Redeem every tear, every delay, every disappointment. Let our lives become living invitations to awakening. Teach us to move in rhythm with you, to speak when you speak, to rest when you rest, to walk in such alignment that our presence releases healing. We release performance and fear. We choose to embody truth written into us before birth. We say yes to being sent, not to hide but to rise. Let this be a generation of awakeners stepping into assignment now. We seal this in faith and surrender, in the name above all names. Amen. And as you carry this forward, hold it, live it, remember it, because your journey is not ending, it is unfolding. You are not here to blend in, but to break cycles, awaken others, and live as evidence of glory. So walk boldly, chosen one. The world has been waiting for you to remember, and your calling is too specific to be measured against someone else's path. And the more you look sideways, the more confused you become. But the more you look upward and inward, the clearer your next steps get. Because destiny is revealed through relationship, not rivalry. And when you stop trying to be like others, you finally have space to be fully who you are. And that authenticity releases grace for your assignment. And grace is divine enablement, the empowerment to do what your natural strength alone could not sustain. And you will recognize grace at work, when things that once drained you begin to flow, when doors open that effort could not force, when timing aligns in ways logic could not schedule, because alignment with purpose often creates acceleration without anxiety, and yet humility remains essential, because spiritual maturity understands that authority is stewardship, not ownership, that influence is responsibility, not entitlement, and you are entrusted with what you carry for the sake of service, not self-exaltation. And this keeps your heart clean as your impact grows. And the cleaner the heart, the clearer the channel, and the clearer the channel, the stronger the transmission. And you are a transmitter, a living conduit of something greater than your personality. And the more you surrender to that flow, the less you strive, and the more you see fruit that lasts. And there will be moments where you look back and barely recognize who you used to be. And instead of grief, there will be gratitude, because you will see how every season, even the painful ones, contributed to the formation of your current capacity. And you will realize nothing was wasted, not the tears, not the waiting, not the confusion. All of it was construction. And now you stand not at the end, but at a new beginning, one where you walk with greater awareness, deeper surrender, steadier faith. And this next stretch of your journey will be marked by embodiment, not just inspiration, daily choices reflecting eternal identity, small obediences building lasting impact. And as you continue, remember this: you do not have to carry tomorrow, today. Grace is given in measure for each step, and the one who called you remains the one who sustains you. So you move forward not in pressure but in trust, not in fear of failure, but in confidence of guidance. And when you stumble, you rise. When you feel weak, you lean. When you feel uncertain, you listen, because your strength is not self-generated, it is sourced, and that source is faithful. And as this chapter unfolds, you will become increasingly aware that your life itself is a message, your choices a sermon, your presence a signal, and without striving to be seen, you will be noticed. Without chasing influence, you will have it, because when identity and alignment meet, impact becomes inevitable. So, keep walking, keep listening, keep surrendering, because the story being written through your obedience is bigger than you can currently imagine, and heaven wastes nothing surrendered. And every yes you give becomes a doorway for something greater to move through you into the world. And that, chosen one, is how destiny unfolds, not in one dramatic moment alone, but in 1,000 faithful steps that turn calling into reality. Because awareness is part of stewardship, and you cannot steward influence while being naive about environments. And with this discernment comes the responsibility to guard your inner world like sacred territory, to choose what you allow into your mind, your spirit, your emotional space, because every input either strengthens your clarity or clouds it. And at this level of calling, clarity is not a luxury, it is lifeline. And the more you protect your peace, the more power you carry without strain. Because peace is not passivity, it is alignment with divine order. It is the atmosphere where wisdom speaks clearly. And you are entering a season where decisions will matter more, where small compromises carry larger consequences, where obedience in quiet moments shapes authority in visible ones. And this is why discipline returns to your life not as pressure, but as partnership. Prayer no longer feeling like obligation but oxygen. Stillness no longer feeling empty but full of direction. Reflection becoming strategy. Because when a chosen soul matures, spirituality stops being occasional experience and becomes daily posture. And from that posture flows influence that does not have to announce itself to be effective. And understand this clearly: the impact of your life will not always be loud. Much of it will be unseen. Conversations that shift someone's trajectory, presence that stabilizes unstable environments, prayers that alter outcomes you may never trace back to yourself. Because true authority does not perform for credit, it serves from alignment. And heaven records what earth overlooks. And as you grow comfortable with unseen faithfulness, Visible fruit will emerge without striving, because fruit is the byproduct of abiding, not hustling, and you are moving from performance into presence, from proving into being, and being rooted in who you are carries more influence than any effort to impress ever could. And yes, there will still be battles, moments of doubt, waves of emotion, but they will no longer define your direction. They will be weather passing over a mountain that remains, and that mountain is identity anchored in divine truth. And the deeper this anchor sets, the less external chaos can uproot you. And this stability is part of your witness, because a restless world is searching for souls who carry stillness without apathy, strength without harshness, conviction without arrogance, and you are being shaped into that kind of presence. And as this shaping continues, you will feel an increasing pull toward authenticity so strong that pretending becomes physically exhausting. You will no longer have the capacity to shrink to make others comfortable, not out of rebellion but out of integrity, because once you taste alignment, misalignment feels like suffocation, and you were not reborn into awareness to go back to spiritual shallowness. And this is also the season where comparison must finally die, because comparison anchors identity to other people's timelines, other people's expressions, other people's assignments. Chosen one, the stirring you feel right now is not emotion alone. It is movement in the spirit, a continuation of a process that did not begin with this message and will not end with it. Because once awareness has been awakened at the level of identity, life itself begins to reorganize around that truth, and you may already sense it: subtle shifts, internal realignments, a growing intolerance for what once drained you, a quiet pull toward what once intimidated you. Because revelation always demands reorientation, and when heaven reveals who you are, earth can no longer hold you in the shape you used to occupy, which means this next season will not feel like maintenance. It will feel like transformation. And transformation is rarely comfortable because it dismantles before it builds. It confronts before it comforts. It exposes before it elevates. And yet everything happening is evidence that your life is moving from preparation into expression, from hidden forging into visible function. And the tension you feel is the stretching of capacity, the expansion of spiritual infrastructure, so you can carry what is coming without collapsing under it. Because greater clarity brings greater responsibility, and greater responsibility requires greater alignment, which is why the old distractions are losing flavor, why surface conversations feel exhausting, why environments that once entertained you now deplete you. It is not that you have become critical. It is that your frequency is changing, and what does not resonate begins to irritate, not to punish you but to protect your calling from dilution. Because when a soul marked for impact stays entangled in noise, the signal weakens, and heaven is too invested in your assignment to let you remain comfortable in misalignment, so the discomfort you feel is divine redirection, not rejection. And this is the stage where many hesitate, because stepping fully into who you are means letting go of who you pretended to be. And even false identities can feel safe when they have been worn long enough. But you cannot carry old masks into new levels. You cannot house higher purpose inside lower self-perception. You cannot walk in spiritual authority while clinging to narratives built in seasons of fear. And this is where courage becomes obedience, where faith becomes action, where knowing becomes becoming. And becoming often looks like boundaries that surprise people. Silence where you once over-explained. Distance from spaces that can no longer host your growth, because the next dimension of your assignment requires focus, and focus demands pruning. And pruning is not loss. It is precision. It is heaven, removing what would compete with what you are called to carry, because divided attention produces diluted impact, and you were not designed for diluted living. You were designed for concentrated purpose. And as you move deeper into alignment, you will notice an intensification of discernment, an ability to sense undercurrents beneath words, motives beneath smiles, spiritual climates beneath physical settings. And this is not to make you suspicious. It is to make you strategic,